J.D. Vance made a visit to Capitol Hill, and it was upon your invitation as chair of the Republican Policy Committee. What was the idea of having the vice president join the conversation, and was it productive? Did he bring new ideas or hear ideas from you and your colleagues?
Well, it's always productive to have the vice president. He's such a great leader, and he obviously knows everybody, all the Republican senators, because he was one just a short time ago. And so we have a great personal relationship with him. He came on the heels of his visit, obviously, to Israel, but he wanted to reemphasize that opening the government is the most sensible, easiest, sanest way to begin these negotiations after we open the government. So he's very supportive of the position that many of us have taken, and I think he feels as strongly about it as we do. He also talked about tariffs. He reassured us that the president is moving forward in a very measured way to make sure the American worker is getting the advantages from tariffs, and the deals that he's been solidifying on his Asian trip with Malaysia and Cambodia and others are going to really enhance American manufacturing. And then he talked a lot about chips and the situation with China and special metals and all of these things. So it was a comprehensive visit, but I think it really reinforced to me anyway that we have ourselves set on a path, this country on a path to really bring more prosperity to the American worker, and that's a very uniting principle for us.
I don't know if you got into the idea of SNAP benefits expiring, Senator, but you might have heard me refer to some of the legislation that has been put forth with 3 days here until assistance programs run out of money. What do you think of Senator Josh Hawley's idea here to fund SNAP? I know there's a separate version in the House that Representative Bresnahan is working on to fund the WIC program. Should we be entertaining these ideas? Or does that create a scenario in which you're picking favorites? Some people are getting paid, others are not. Some programs are being funded, others are not, when we should simply be focused on reopening the government?
Well, I mean, the simple answer here is if you reopen the government, all of these issues go away. SNAP benefits, air traffic controllers, military, government services, etc. And so now that we're into 29 days, it is really beginning to wear on the American people. So you take my state of West Virginia, 18% of our households have a SNAP benefit. I think about the young mother who has a single mother with children. That's a frightening prospect to think that she wouldn't have the money to feed her children, or a disabled or elderly couple. And so these are real human problems that, honestly, Chuck Schumer can pontificate on the floor about how it's John Thune's fault. I don't think the American people care whose fault it is. Reopening the government is the simplest, easiest way to proceed. We do have an agriculture bill out there that does have SNAP benefits in the appropriations bill. We could look at that as a possible vehicle. I am on Josh Hawley's bill because of the heavy impacts, almost, like I said, almost 20% of my state. It's a heavy impact to my state. And if his bill were to come to the floor, I would be, I'm a co-sponsor now, and I would also be in favor of voting for it.
That's great to know. Do you know if it would pass? Do you have the votes if it gets to the floor?
You know, I would suspect I believe there's probably at least 10 and probably more co-sponsors to that bill, which would give you the 60-vote margin to move forward. But we have to keep going back to the political nature of this shutdown, and also the easiest, simplest way is to do what we've done, what I did 13 times when President Biden was the president, just vote to reopen the government to a continuing resolution while we debate the issues of health care premiums and other issues that want to be debated.
Well, you know, you've been hearing this, I'm sure. If I'm hearing it, you're hearing it, Senator. The idea of a full-year continuing resolution. The head of Ways and Means in the House, Jason Smith, told us he was behind that idea. We know the White House has floated it. John Thune at one point said, hey, this might be the way out of shutdowns for the next year. But I know there are a lot of concerns among appropriators, and maybe you share their concerns that this is still a Joe Biden budget.
Right.
Would you vote for a year-long CR?
You know, I'm going to leave that to see if that's an option. I don't know where we would be to have to make that vote, but I'm an appropriator myself. I'm the chairman of the Health, Education, and Labor Subcommittee, enormous appropriating for the year. I want to have President Trump's priorities in the appropriations process. I want to have my priorities in the appropriations process. I don't want to cede that to just simply what I think is sort of mindless spending in a continuing resolution here for forever for a 13-month period of time. So I would rather see us go to the appropriations process on the floor, like Senator Thune has brought to the floor, which, by the way, Senator Schumer never did the year before, and so we can actually do the bipartisan work that we do so well on appropriations. That's the preferred route. If we can get 7 or 8 of these bills over the threshold, and you may be rolling your eyes thinking, how could they possibly do that when they can't keep the government open? I'm an optimist. I think we can. We've worked on these bills before, and they're exceedingly important to make sure that President Trump gets the priorities that he has and that we share with him into the appropriating cycle.
You're on half the committees in the Senate, of course. That includes Commerce, and I'm wondering your thoughts about what's going to happen with the FAA here, Senator. The TSA, I realize, is a slightly different matter here, but everybody is working it from the air traffic control tower down to the security checkpoint in the airport. They're all working without pay right now, and at some point, based on what we're hearing from workers who are at 60 hours a week, they might have to look for other work. The unions might decide to start doing sick-outs or walkouts. If we start seeing massive cancellations and delays, and I know we're already getting a taste with some of the ground stops that have been happening around the country, is that what shakes loose a couple of Democrats to sign on to this CR? Or do you see it differently?
No, I don't see it differently. I do think that is definitely a pressure point when you see the thousands of delays. And you also realize at what point is safety imperiled here, and that is the greater question. But, we're asking people, or a shutdown asks people to skip not just one paycheck. Now we're into 2 paychecks. These are families. Yeah. These are people that have obligations, that have it is such a disservice to not just the air traffic controllers, but to every single federal employee, which in my state are quite a few. And not to mention the troops, the Coast Guard, the TSA agents, all of these folks. And so simply open the government, get the money flowing to those that are working and have worked, and provide the services, and let's get on to negotiation. Let's drop the politics of a shutdown. I don't think it's working for Senator Schumer, and I think I could hear a little desperation in his voice there when you played his clip. I think he's looking for a way out, and we have an easy way to do it with the bipartisan talks that we've had over premiums and other issues that we all share concerns about.
Yeah. Definitely had a frog in his throat, Senator. I want to ask you before you leave us about tariffs, because there was an important vote yesterday that really raised a lot of eyebrows, a vote to eliminate the 50% tariff on Brazil. And it was a 52-48 vote. It came with the support of a group I was referring to earlier as the Feisty Five. Your Republican colleagues, Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, Rand Paul, and Thom Tillis. Should we assume that because it is those 5, that this is not some sort of groundswell to check the president in the Senate? Or is this, in fact, the line that has been drawn by Republicans when it comes to trade?
Well, I think you see a variety of opinions. We have a lot of free traders within the Republican conference. We have a lot of folks whose industries over years, and I would put myself in this position, have been exceedingly disadvantaged by the unfair trade practices with Canada, but also, China and other places where our manufacturing, we've lost jobs, and in some cases our products are very much at a disadvantage. And I'm glad that President Trump's going to work for the American worker through tariffs. But here's what I would say to him if he was sitting right here in front of me. This needs to be settled, and it needs to be settled now. We can't, the ebbs and flows and uncertainty that we have in some cases, I think, does provide a lot of capital staying on the sidelines, lack of investment, and people are not able to move forward. So I think certainty, and that means set the policies, set the reciprocal trade policies that are fair and that help our American worker, and let's move from there. And I think we'll satisfy both goals, both the worker goal, but also the goal of the president, for us to not be in a disadvantaged situation.